Guess who's back? Back again. Sub Media Reviews is back, so you should tell a friend. Hey y'all, and welcome to season 2. I know it's been a minute, but I am thrilled to be back in the podcast chair. And trust me, this season is going to be bigger, better, and way more fun. We're keeping things fresh with high-level reviews of your favorite movies, TV shows, and even music albums. No real deep dives or long tangents, just thoughtful takes on whether these stories still hold up today. And in November, we're adding something new, a video series on the Sub Media Reviews YouTube channel called Top 5. I'll be joined by guests to count down our favorite media picks, from top soundtracks to unforgettable finales and everything in between. And you'll actually get to see me. Yay! Since it's October, spooky season, I had to come back with a bang. We're dropping a new horror movie review every Tuesday this month. We're kicking off this new season with Scooby Doo on Zombie Island, a true gem. After that, I've got The Faculty, Jaws, and Final Destination lined up with some fantastic guests you won't want to miss. Over on YouTube, the very first Top 5 video, coming in November, features two amazing creators, Zach from Zach Attack Reviews and Kenny from the Kenny Sparks YouTube channel, as we share our top 5 front row movies, aka films so good you sit in the worst seat in the theater just to watch them. I'll also be sharing my top 5 holiday movies later this season with a very special guest. So hit follow, tell a friend, and connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and YouTube. We're back, we're in action, and I cannot wait to dive into all things media with you all. Now, let's get into the first episode of season 2. You hear the screeching of an owl, you hear the wind begin to howl. You know there's zombies on the prowl. And it's terror time again. It got you running through the night. It's terror time again. And you just might die of fright. It's a terrifying time. Hello, Home Slices, and welcome back to Sub Media Reviews. Season 2 is here, and we're kicking things up a notch. We're diving into music, TV, and movies from over 20 years ago, plus we're kicking off a brand new YouTube series that's going to bring even more fun your way. This season is full of fresh reviews, special guests, and plenty of laughs. Ready to jump in? Let's get into this week's episode. What's up, Home Slices? Thanks so much for tuning into season 2 of Sub Media Reviews. I'm your host, Kiara, and I'm really excited to kick off this year's spooky season with a review of the nostalgic 1998 film Scooby Doo on Zombie Island. The movie features all the characters and voice actors we've known and loved for over 65 years now. Fred, Daphne, Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby Doo. This is a childhood favorite of mine, so I'm really excited to dive in. Here are some fun facts about the movie. Scooby Doo on Zombie Island was a milestone for the franchise. It was a basket of firsts. It was the very first direct-to-video Scooby Doo movie, marking a new era for the Mystery Inc. It also showed a surprisingly intense side of Scooby himself. For the first time ever, he's openly aggressive towards cats, which is a big shift from his usual animal-loving behavior. Plus, this was the first time the series hinted at a romance between Fred and Daphne, which planted some seeds for future character dynamics. So if you're itching to relive the mystery, you can rent it on Amazon Prime as of the recording of this episode. I love this movie so much that I actually purchased it on Amazon Video for about $7.50. I figured I could rent it for 48 hours for $3.80, or I could own it forever, and it was totally worth it for me. Now let's talk about my personal connection to this movie. First off, the Scooby-Doo franchise turned 65 years old last year, and it is a legacy that lives on to this day. Even as formulaic as all of the TV episodes are, these are characters that even our parents grew up loving and watching. It's really almost weird and surreal how intergenerational Scooby-Doo and the crew are. We have Daphne, Fred, and Velma, and Shaggy, and of course the beloved Great Dane Scooby, who have dedicated their decades-long teenage years to dispelling myths despite how scary they are. I think Scooby is kind of like the OG Courage the Cowardly Dog, but these meddling kids have been taking down crooks for decades and we all love them. There's nothing worse than a liar, so, gotta catch them all. Now, I remember watching this movie as a child with a cousin of mine, and we really enjoyed it. We were big fans of Scooby Doo. And at the time, Scooby Doo on Zombie Island was a very palatable, scary story because I, was not very into scary stuff, especially as a child. And I love that the monsters in this one were actually real. It was a departure from the, unmasking the museum curator that's stealing all of the fancy artifacts or whatever. I also love that it took place in Louisiana, which I have a huge connection to. I lived there for 8 years. I went to Louisiana State University. So I have a big connection to the area. So we're going to talk about the accents a little bit too. Now that is enough pontification. Okay, I'll save the rest for the review. Let's get into it. Now, the movie opens up with a kind of upgraded Scooby-Doo theme song, and I don't know if I like the upgraded version, Scooby-Doo, where are you? We all know the song, of course, and, during this time, there is a classic monster chase around a castle with the standard issue nostalgic cartoon noises. This actually brought back a lot of nostalgia for me because I don't think currently kids actually know or recognize the cartoon noises. I can't even make the noises, okay? Like there's the auga, like that's an old cartoon noise. There's like the sound of someone slipping on something like a banana peel. Like there's a bunch of different noises that you think about when you think of kind of old school cartoons. And so immediately we are plunged into this nostalgia because this chase is very iconic for Scooby Doo. It's like a climactic moment where the monster is everywhere and the doors are opening and you open one door and the monster is there and maybe 1 second it's not. It's very, very nostalgic. We know it and we love it. Okay. The chase, of course, culminates in Scooby-Doo accidentally saving the day by knocking over the culprit. Velma explains the villain's schemes, and then the villain curses the meddling kids and their stupid dog, right? So it's the same old, same old. But then we see that this was actually a flashback and that Daphne is on a TV show kind of recounting the tale of how they figured out the guy in the castle was not really a monster. And this is where we see that basically everyone in the Mystery Inc. gang has moved on to greener pastures. I'm assuming they're supposed to be a little bit older now and are, have gone their separate ways. And so we see that Daphne has her own show called Coast to Coast, where Fred is her producer and camera guy. And she's going to be doing season 2 of her show where she's going to be going around America to find real haunted houses. Now, Shaggy and Scooby are airport security, which is very interesting in pre-TSA times, but Scooby is a dog that is sniffing out, contraband food. And of course they eat the food and get caught and end up being fired. Next up, we see Velma, who owns the Mystery Inc. bookstore, and she is bored out of her mind. She wants to be solving mysteries, not selling books about other people solving mysteries. Her voice, though, is noticeably different in this movie, so there's probably a different voice actor, but, we won't get into that. Fred decides as a gift to Daphne, a birthday gift, to basically call up the rest of the mystery gang and bring them back on board to do season 2 of her show with her. So Daphne is surprised to see them all come back for her birthday. And we learn that the crew is going to be back together again, looking for the most haunted houses in America. And they're headed to New Orleans, where there is amazing food. And I can attest to that personally. Now, on their way to New Orleans, of course, they stop at a few other houses, and we see a sequence of them going across the country, investigating haunted places, and all of them end up being fake, which is not going to work for what Daphne is trying to accomplish in season 2. Now, the crew ends up at an open air market in what looks like the French Quarter, where a pretty young woman named Lena Dupree tells them that she works as a chef at a mansion on Moonscar Island in a nearby bayou. Now, Lena has this weird, like non-Louisiana accent and essentially invites the crew to join her if they aren't scared of the island's resident ghost. It is the ghost of a pirate named Morgan Moonscar, okay? And so Daphne, of course, is excited because yay, real ghost stories. Fred is enamored because Lena is cute. And Velma does some research and says, you know, some people been disappearing there, so maybe we got something here. So, of course, Scooby and Shaggy are off eating a huge po' boy. And the only reason I bring it up is because the sandwich artist has a French accent, but it's not Cajun. Or it doesn't come across as Cajun to me. He sounds like he's from France, but I'm like, okay, I'll take it. It's the second Louisiana accent that we hear. It's not quite there, but I'll take it. The kids, of course, head to the island where they have to take a ferry over, and it's operated by this kind of rotund old man named Jacques. Now, Jacques' accent is probably the closest Louisiana accent that we'll hear. Okay, it's the most spot on so far, but it does feel a little put on, like someone who maybe studied the language did it. So there's something about it that feels a little unnatural, like when he says "che" or, you know, some other things. But the raspiness and like the quality of the accent is pretty good. It's just like the intention behind it is like this person is trying too hard. It's not as relaxed as like a Cajun accent would be. But anyways, they drive the mystery machine onto the ferry where Lena is shocked to see that they have a dog, as Lena's boss keeps cats. And even though Shaggy assures her that Scooby Doo is indeed a cat lover, it comes up over and over again that Scooby is not friendly with the cats that are on this island. Now, on the way there, Jacques says that the bayou used to be a place where folks would go and hide their loot from the law, hence the pirates like Morgan Moonscar, aka Captain Morgan. That's what we're gonna call him. Okay. Now, Scooby has a run-in with like a sassy catfish, which results in Shaggy and Scooby falling into the bayou with the gators. Now, y'all, this is one of my nightmares. Okay. They are essentially dinosaurs and have survived for thousands of years, and there's a reason for it. They are scary. Okay. They end up being rescued by a man with a glass eye and a bad attitude. His name is Snakebite Scruggs. He wants to catch, you know, the fish, and he has a hunting hog named Mojo that also antagonizes the crew. He has an attitude. He's very territorial. Doesn't come up very often, but we will talk about him at least once more. Now, the freshly rescued Shaggy and Scooby return to Jacques' boat. They finally make it to Moonscar Island, where there is this beautifully kept mansion that has a ton of cats everywhere. And Scooby basically tears up the garden and upsets the new gardener, whose name is Beau, and he knocks over the lady of the house, whose name is Miss Simone Lenoir. Now, Simone doesn't really have a Cajun accent either. Hers, I think, is a little more French, but she is, you know, a proper lady. Okay. Now, Scooby keeps asking where the dog is when people are like, oh, we didn't know you had a dog. And Scooby sees himself as a human, which is so funny to me. It's freaking hilarious when they're like, oh, you have a dog. And he's like, a dog? Where? It's so funny. It's that thing where it's like, that ain't no dog. That's family, right? That's what, I don't know. When I see my dog, I love my dog dearly. His name is incidentally Beau, and he is amazing. He is family. And if you come to my house and you have a problem with my dog, then we know who has to leave. Okay. But I just think it's very funny about Scooby having this self-awareness of like not seeing himself as a pet. It's very funny. Okay. Unfortunately, he does make a bad impression with the lady of the house, Miss Lenoir. So much so that Lena has to apologize for bringing them there. Miss Lenoir kind of warms up a little bit when she sees how much the mystery gang wants to be there to explore this haunted mansion, essentially. And that kind of calms her down a bit. And she starts basically taking them on a tour of the house and the grounds. Now, during this tour, we learned that the island used to be a pepper plantation, and a plantation in the South. We know what that means, but it's famous for growing the hottest peppers in the region. Now, Miss Lenoir admits that the house is haunted, and she is open to them filming and everything as long as they keep Scooby Doo out of the way. Okay, there's cats everywhere. Scooby don't like the cats. He need to be out of here. So basically, the thing that they're going to use to distract him is food. So Shaggy and Scooby go to the kitchen. They're eating gumbo, yum yum, while the rest of the crew is touring the house. Now, it is in the kitchen with Shaggy and Scooby where we encounter our first ghostly spirit, where some invisible being carves the words "get out" into the paint on the kitchen wall. And of course, Shaggy and Scooby are afraid, and their screams draw everyone back into the kitchen to see the ghost writing, right? And so Daphne starts to record her show segment to talk about this carving, and the ghost in that moment even adds the word "beware" while Daphne is filming. So Velma is also levitated off the ground. Something picks her up. So these ghosts are laying it on thick. Like virtually everyone except Fred has a direct run-in with the ghost just right away in this moment. And the urgency of that makes a lot of sense if you know what happens later in the story. And so when they rewatch the footage on the camera, they see the ghost of Captain Morgan McWright doing the writing on the wall, and he has a moon-shaped scar on his face, which is how you identify him versus the other ghosts. Simone is surprised that even with Moonscar's threat about them getting out and being, beware, that they're going to stick around. Fred thinks that it's some type of trick or some type of wires, but Velma is like I would know if I had wires attached to me, okay, to levitate. So Fred, of course, is the one who's like, oh, gotta be some kind of trick. But everyone else is more like, this seems kind of real, okay? So Velma is in the kitchen with a spatula and peels back more paint on the wall to find a logo that says Maelstrom. It is the name of Captain Morgan's pirate ship, and we find out that there is supposedly buried treasure on the island, which could be a motive according to Fred. Now, during a little picnic that Shaggy and Scooby are doing, Scooby gets into another cat chase with some really antagonistic cats, and of course they have some more cartoon hijinks. Of course we love it, okay? Now Scooby ends up scaring away the catfish from Snakebite, the guy who rescued them earlier. And so he sends Mojo, like the hunting hog, after them. Only reason I'm bringing this up is because Mojo chases them into this huge hole that they aren't able to escape out of. It's at least 10 feet deep and they can't get out of there. But then suddenly they see like a skeleton arm and some crazy lights and wind come and reanimate the skeleton with some zombified flesh. And it is Captain Morgan with a large pirate sword, okay? They manage to get out of the hole while Captain Morgan kind of slowly chases them, and they immediately slam into Bo the gardener. And they're like, yo, we just literally saw a zombie come back to life and he is chasing us, okay? So Fred, Velma, Simone, and Daphne and Lena come out of the woods to kind of hear the story about what's going on. Velma, of course, is suspicious of Bo because they were like, this hole is kind of big for a gardener, okay? Daphne, however, thinks Bo is cute, which I think is very interesting. And some of them want to leave, but the ferry isn't running and they are essentially trapped on this freaking island. Another one of my biggest fears, okay? Simone is like, I'll let y'all stay the night, okay? Like, we'll put you up. So Lena starts dinner. She shows everybody to their rooms, and it is the night of the harvest moon, okay? In the room, Shaggy and Scooby are sharing a room. Shaggy opens his suitcase and it's a suitcase full of his long green shirts. And it was so funny to me. It's one of those things where like cartoons, of course, typically always wear the same clothes. It's for ease and, we get it, right? But seeing the cartoon be like aware of itself is what makes it so funny to me. Scooby Doo, particularly the movies, had some more mature moments, which like maybe a child may not think is funny or might not understand. But I really love how self-referential it can be sometimes. And this is one of those moments where I'm like, this is so funny that he opens a suitcase and it's full of clothes that he's, the only clothes that he ever wears. It's just so funny to me. Okay. Now, in the mirror in Shaggy and Scooby's room, they are visited by a man in uniform. He's some type of high-ranking soldier telling them to get out, okay? They get scared and they run into Fred's room, where Fred, doing another kind of self-referential thing, is trying to figure out if he should wear an ascot or not. And then he's like, nah. And I'm like, this is so funny. I don't know. It's hilarious to me. Maybe I'm just being silly. Who knows? But Shaggy and Scooby end up running into Fred, and after all the ruckus and all of that stuff, Scooby Doo ends up falling on Simone again, okay? And of course, all of the noise and cacophony makes everyone come to the room where they encountered this other ghost. Now, this is not Captain Moonscar. He was wearing a Confederate soldier uniform, okay? And so Velma investigates the mirror and sees that it belonged to a Colonel Jackson T. Pettigrew from the time the island had Confederate barracks on it. We also learned during this time that she has lost an eyeglass cloth, which comes back later. I think it's very interesting that they kept some realistic racism in the movie with the Confederacy stuff. But let's move on. It's dinner time. Scooby is exiled to the kitchen where cats are everywhere, and he chases them again. And it's like, okay, I'm over it. Okay, that's basically what Simone says. So Lena basically suggests that Shaggy and Scooby eat dinner, which is a crawfish boil out in the mystery machine. Okay, so they can have some type of protection from the weird zombies while still having a decent meal together. I love a good crawfish boil, y'all. First time I ever had a crawfish boil, there was a free one on LSU's campus for all the kids who lived on campus, or all the students who lived on campus. And I got my Louisiana native friends to show me how to open them and eat them. It was a nice experience. It was really fun. If you haven't done it before, you should definitely do it. I haven't had crawfish in a long time because I'm more of a crab person, and crawfish are a little small for my liking, but I definitely have some more crawfish sometime soon. Now they're in the van enjoying this crawfish boil. They're sucking on the heads and everything. I really love that they have a good appreciation for food and Cajun food in this movie. There are cats everywhere, even outside. So Shaggy decides to drive the van to a quieter area. Now back at the house during dinner, Daphne is like trying to get the lowdown on the very suspicious Bo, who has not joined the rest of them for dinner. The rest of the crew is like coming up with a lot of logical explanations for what's happening with the ghost, trying to rationalize everything, okay? But Daphne seems pretty intent on believing that they have finally found a really haunted house. Now, back in the mystery machine, Shaggy and Scooby end up having to leave the van after some really hot peppers, and in a flash, there's the weird wind and light again that brings back a lot of zombified pirates and soldiers from their graves, which scares the bejesus out of Shaggy and Scooby. In their attempt to escape, the mystery machine ends up getting stuck in the mud, and they have to book it on foot. And they almost immediately run into Bo again, who looks pretty scary in the moonlight. Every time something pop off, Bo is in the mix. Now, because of all the craziness and the screaming, they try to head back to the mansion, but Daphne, Fred, and Velma are trying to find them to see if they can, figure out where they are based on the screaming. Instead, they end up finding Bo first. He's very kind of mean and nasty, and he is never around when the ghosts and the zombies show up. So Velma is like, okay. Daphne, of course, suggests that they all split up to try to find Shaggy and Scooby. So Fred is with Daphne, and Velma is with Bo. She insisted on it because she will not let her foot off of his neck, even though Bo saves Velma's life by identifying some quicksand in the area, okay? Even with the kind gesture, Velma is like, I got my eyes on you, okay? Now, Daphne finds the mystery machine, and she and Fred, of course, are jealous that each of them has like a new paramour. Fred is into Lena, Daphne is into Bo, and they, are a little jealous. It's kind of cute. Okay. I love that they have like this kind of hint at romance, but it's totally age appropriate. I love it. So suddenly a hand taps on Daphne's shoulder, and she does some kind of self-defense flip and flips him over, and it is a zombie. Shaggy and Scooby show up at the same moment, and then Daphne and Fred try to unmask this zombie, but to no avail, okay? When the head pops off and the zombie reattaches it, they know that this is legitimately real. There's no animatronics. There's none of that stuff. This is the real deal. These are real zombies. And so the scary wind and light comes back. All of this is being caught on film by Fred or whoever's holding the camera at the moment. And the zombies are coming up from the bayou, and these zombies look a little different from the other ones. They look more like tourists who are from different eras. There was somebody like in a zoot suit, but then there was also somebody in like a bright floral pattern shirt, like they're in Florida or Hawaii or something. So that's a little hint for later. So now the team is kind of surrounded by the zombies, right? And they hear Lena scream back at the mansion. So they head back to the house, but unfortunately Fred, in his hurrying, trips and loses the camera in quicksand. So dang, there's no proof. Okay, nobody is going to believe this. All right. Now, as the crew is running from the mini zombies in, of course, this chase sequence, we hear the super nostalgic "It's terror time again. I got you running through the night." I freaking love that song. That song still slaps, okay? There's a lot of chase hijinks going on. It's super cute. This song is actually very lit, and I love it as much as I did back in 1998, okay? Now, at the end of this chase, Fred and Daphne hook up with Velma and Bo, and separately, Shaggy and Scooby kind of land themselves in a cave where they find wax figures that look like the crew with personal items attached, including Velma's missing eyeglass cloth. See how that came back? Now, those dolls come back a little later. We'll see. It's basically some voodoo magic, okay? Which is also kind of a Louisiana thing a little bit. So they keeping the Louisiana elements rolling. Okay. So Fred, Daphne, Bo, and Velma return to the house, which does not have any power. And Fred ends up falling into a secret passageway where he connects with Lena. And she says that, me and Simone were attacked by the zombies and they dragged Miss Lenoir away. Velma isn't following for the BS though, because there are no drag marks. So Velma, she got her antennas up. Now they go deeper into this passageway, which apparently was created so that folks could hide from Confederate soldiers. But they end up finding a door to a dungeon that they are doing like voodoo rituals in or something. Velma rightfully accuses Lena of being involved, and we see Simone show up with some voodoo wax figures that they use to smack the kids around. They just smacking them around, okay? Around the room, we see this kind of large cat statue, and we find out that they are awaiting midnight, basically, for them to do a ceremony that Simone has been doing for 200 years, okay? And then Simone and Lena turn into like half cat people. It's kind of like a werewolf situation, but a cat instead of a dog. I don't know if a werecat is a thing, but that's basically what they turn into, okay? We find out that during the harvest moon, she and Lena suck the life force out of unsuspecting victims to preserve their immortality, okay? So they're over 200 years old. How cool is that? Now, Scooby and Shaggy head to the dock where they see Jacques' boat. They think, we about to get up out of here. But then he promptly turns into a werecat. And he's very impressive for a werecat. He's not the dumpy old rotund man anymore. He's like a big, strong, kind of reddish cat man. It's pretty impressive. And he chases them, okay? Now, back in the dungeon, Simone tells us the history of the island, where apparently she and Lena were a part of a group of settlers that worshipped a cat god for like a bountiful harvest. And one night when they're out with festivities and everything, Captain Morgan and his crew of pirates show up with some treasure to bury, and like the colonizers they are, destroy the settlement and drive the rest of them into the bayou where they are eaten by gators. It's murderous, okay? A little intense for a kid's movie, but we get it. Now, Lena and Simone, the only survivors from the settlement, place a curse on the pirates to destroy them, and their cat god grants their wish. So they become these kind of cat people, and they kill the pirates, which is also, again, pretty murderous. for a children's movie, but they didn't realize that they had been cursed as well. So basically, every harvest moon, they got to suck somebody else's life dry if they want to stay alive. And you know what they say? He who seeks revenge digs two graves, okay? Now, over the years, more folks came to the island for different reasons, okay? Maybe they came to look for the treasure. Maybe they just kind of showed up. Maybe they just wanted to start a plantation. Or they were lured there by Lena, the same way that the mystery gang was. The zombies were actually people that they had drained over the years, and the zombies were trying to warn the mystery crew so that they didn't end up like them. Who'da thunk it? Okay, now Jacques wanted immortality and they needed a ferry driver, so apparently they made a deal with him. So he's not quite 200 years old, but he was an old rotund man, and he was like, you know, immortality and being a cat sounds better than dying, I guess. So right as Jacques is about to attack Shaggy and Scooby, a group of zombies dogpile on him, which enables them to get away. The moon is basically aligned for the ceremony, so the lady cats get ready to drain the crew and Bo. But Shaggy and Scooby fall into this cave and are able to kind of do some hijinks or whatever to stop the cat ladies from being on the prowl, okay? The ladies are so upset by the disruption in the ceremony that they turn into their full cat form, like Jacques, because apparently they were kind of only half transformed, I guess. And in the ruckus, the folks that are tied up, which are Velma, Daphne, Fred, and Bo, are able to get free. And Shaggy and Scooby, of course, are in disbelief that the zombies are the good guys, okay? Now, right as Shaggy and Scooby are caught and are about to be drained by the cat ladies, Velma and Daphne use the converted wax figures, pussycat dolls, if you will, to gain control of the cat people. Now, this holds off the cats until they start to disintegrate because they missed the deadline, y'all. The harvest moon ceremony, the time has passed, okay? And they turn into dust. Goodbye, goodbye. The 200-year reign is over. The zombies, interestingly enough, do the exact same thing, but their spirits are set free. Woo! Yay. So Daphne, at the end of the day, is upset that she doesn't have proof. They lost the camera. They ain't getting it back, okay? Interestingly enough, though, Bo turns out to be a police officer who was moonlighting as a gardener and investigating the disappearances. So it looks like he'll be Daphne's next guest on her show. I still don't know if people will believe this, okay? I don't know. Has anybody ever recovered anything from quicksand? Is that a thing? I still low-key don't know how quicksand works. I don't get it. But anyway, Bo and Velma kind of hit things off, which is very interesting and great because it's very rare that the nerdy girl gets the guy. So I'm kind of into that, okay? Now, Scooby picks a peck of peppers before they catch the ferry back to the mainland, and the movie ends with Scooby surrounded by cats. And it's terror time again. Again, love the song. Okay, now, so that's the end of the movie, and it's one of the few times that the mystery gang actually ran into real monsters, and that's only part of what makes this film so special. Now, at the end of every review, we ask if the movie holds up and if it's worth a rewatch. I'm going to say that it mostly holds up, probably 95%, and is definitely worth a rewatch. Now, one of the things that was really nostalgic for me were all of the cartoon chase scenes and the silliness of the noises that I don't know exist anymore in modern cartoons. Things like using your thumb to blow up a smushed head, or the type of revving noise that someone does as they are revving up to run and take off, or any of these other silly sounds, right? It's a very classic way to do cartoons. And again, I don't know if modern cartoons do this or that they have this same type of spirit. And I think that's really the only reason why it may not hold up for everyone, but it keeping those same kind of nostalgic bits just adds to the charm for me. But other than that, I still found it very funny. I thought it had a spooky element that wasn't too scary for kids. And it even had a twist that you might not be expecting at the end. I will also say that they did an interesting and probably age appropriate job at keeping some historical significance, for better or worse, the Confederate soldiers and the plantations that had all white people working at them. This was all a little extra, historical a little extra historical little sprinkling that they did on top, that I think is really interesting that they included this, because they could have made something up. Like, especially considering the Confederate connotations. So, I mean, if your child is young and doesn't know much about history, they won't know what's going on. But it's just so interesting that they decided to be kind of historical with certain parts. I just think that's very interesting. Okay. Now, the other thing that makes this film pretty interesting is because each of the main villains was a victim at some point. Simone and Lena had their whole village destroyed, while Moonscar, his pirates, and 200 years worth of new people were sucked dry to keep the cat ladies alive. Like, you live long enough, you become the villain. Okay, that's what they say. Now, this is a classic case of everyone sucks here, except for any of the kind of harmless tourists who weren't interested in any treasure or piracy or colonization or slavery. Okay, like, everyone was a victim and a villain. Okay. Now, speaking of treasure, I personally think they should have looked for it before they left, but I could understand them wanting to just go ahead and get off the island. Okay. Now, if this was one of your childhood faves, I strongly suggest that you rewatch it. The nostalgia, the mystery gang, all of that just makes it totally worth it. And I do think it's even appropriate to share with the kids of today. I think they might enjoy it too. Now let's talk briefly about the reviews. Scooby Doo on Zombie Island received 89% from critics and 80% from the audience. This is a little surprising to me because I imagine the audience might think the film is a little more favorable, but these scores pretty much align with my thoughts. I'd give it a solid 89%. Like, for the nostalgia, the freaking theme song, it's terror time again. Okay, now the little twist at the end and the characters that we've loved for over 65 years make it a really good film, and I would consider sharing it again with kids who are old enough to not be scared of the cat people. Okay. Now, that is all, folks, for the first episode of season 2. Thanks so much for listening to my review of Scooby Doo on Zombie Island here at Sup Media Reviews. I'm so happy to be back, okay? And I cannot wait for you all to see what else we have in store. Listeners, let me know what you think about Scooby Doo on Zombie Island. Does it hold up for you? Did you rewatch it recently? Do you agree with the Rotten Tomatoes ratings? Share your thoughts on our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Next time, I'll be reviewing the 1998 film The Faculty with a very special guest. You don't want to miss it. Peace out. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Sup Media Reviews. New episodes drop just about every week, and our brand new YouTube series is coming your way. So make sure you follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, and Facebook so you never miss a thing. Got a movie, album, or show you think we should review? Send it our way. Until next time, keep watching, keep listening, and just chill till the next episode.